You know what? There's nothing more that I can tell you about Panama. Okay, what I mean is, are you stuck in analysis paralysis, searching online for videos, vlogs, blogs, articles, YouTube videos, reports that you can read, soaking in all the information? But let me ask you, have you actually made a plan? Have you actually taken action on at least visiting the country? That's what we're going to chat about today. I have to say, one of the best things I did about Panama was not over researching it. I really knew very little about the country, and all I was doing was looking online for property and fell in love with a house that was in Altos del Maria, booked a trip because I was in Florida on the RV journey across the United States, and figured, well, I ruled out RV living, so let me go see if Panama might be a good fit, because I fell in love with this house that I never did get to see because that was a little bit of a bait and switch possible scam thing happening, but it was the trip that got me to Panama. I've shared this a few times in my videos. So I had the benefit of having a personal experience. No amount of research is going to give you what an actual personal experience can give you. And I know this also from doing it, from researching Volcan when I was in Panama, and I had assumed that living by the beach was going to be great and I'd love it, and I'd go for my beach walks and I'd have my condo as my home, and then soon came to realize that I'm just gonna wilt in the heat and it drains my energy, and that just was not gonna be good. And so people had talked about Volcan and how it was much cooler climate. And I knew about Boquete, but I didn't want to go to Boquete because I knew that there were a lot of expats there, and I didn't really want to be in a huge expat community. So what did I do? I packed up my entire car with all the stuff that I could fit from the things that I had in storage. My plan was to secure a place to live, and then at some point I would come back down to Coronado and get my things out of storage. So off I went. I was house sitting in Volcan for like 3 months, and I figured that'll give me a great opportunity to look around and get a place to live. So this was in, I want to say it was maybe like September, October, November, in like the height of rainy season. And it rained a lot, and it was actually cold. I had to wear socks. I had to put the heat on in the car. Like, I was legitimately cold, and I did not do well with that kind of weather. It was overcast much of the time. You know, I didn't see blue sky at all. It was just raining and raining and raining. And there were actually some really devastating landslides and debris flows that happened during the time that I was there. And the whole experience was just kind of a downer for me. So I just was like, between the weather, you know, being like cold, and the sky being overcast, and the environment just felt kind of gloomy. I mean, I had a couple of nice days, you know, that were sunny, but for me, having had like seasonal affective disorder before, I just didn't think it was going to be a good fit. But because everyone told me like, oh, it's great, you'll love it, you know, it's in the cooler mountains, it's in Cherokee Province, it's beautiful, and it is all those things. But for me, how I felt, it just wasn't going to be a good fit. And so you can read everything online about Coronado, about Boquete, about Bocas del Toro, Panama City, the Azuero Peninsula, Cerro Azul, Altos del Maria, El Valle, Puerto Armuelles. You can read and watch and listen, but the only thing that's going to let you know if it's a good fit for you is for you to experience the place firsthand. I really want to encourage you to take an action step toward whether it's Panama or another country. But since you're watching a Panama channel, I'm assuming that you're interested in Panama. So go ahead and book a trip. Come visit. The other thing I would encourage you to not do is, I see a lot of posts on the Facebook groups like this. I'm gonna be moving to Panama in 2027. What's it like there? Where should I live? Do I need an attorney? Is it hot? Are there bugs? Somebody wrote that they were moving with a disabled family member. I don't think they've done any research on where they're thinking of living, how would that person be served? What is the disability that they have? Are they actually going to find services that they need here? And that's a very, very important question, because it is not like the States. It's very different. And you can't just make a plan to move somewhere, especially with like a health condition, disability, without knowing what is going to be there to support you. So book the trip. You don't have to do a relocation tour. If you know that you're not ready to move in the next year, and if you have the time, just take a 7 to 10 day trip to Panama and pick a couple of places from the research that you've done and stay there 3 to 4 nights in each spot. Maybe if you want to, you can book a interview, with a property manager, real estate professional. Definitely book an appointment with an immigration attorney. In fact, I would encourage you to do that before you actually even make a plan to visit, because depending on what the immigration visa requirements are, it may rule Panama in or out of the countries that you're researching. So chat with an immigration attorney first. Yes, there's a lot of information online, but it really is best to get the information from someone who you may be working with. Some people have unique situations, and an attorney is going to be able to give you the information that, just gathering it online isn't necessarily going to be able to give you. So you can chat with an immigration attorney before the trip, line up some, appointments, maybe with a real estate broker. Let them know that you're not, moving or buying or renting, in the near future. Maybe, pay them for their time or take them to lunch. Time is money. But they could give you some valuable information. You can also book a local tour with someone just, for half a day. Get an idea of where medical facilities are and where the grocery stores are, where you would go to make copies, and where the pharmacy is, where the veterinarian is, the beach or the mountains, the hiking. So that would be a great trip that you could put together. And then just go places, have meals, have experiences, sit in the sun, go for a swim, go for a hike, chat with people, and just get a sense of how you feel. Let's say that you are a golfer. So your research is likely going to be where in Panama are the best golf courses. That's a starting point, because if you know that golf is going to be part of your retirement life, then you obviously want to be near golf so that you can play golf frequently. That's going to narrow down your research quite a bit, because there's only so many golf courses in Panama. So then you could get on the Facebook groups of those areas, or contact the golf club directly, ask them some questions, and they'll be perfectly happy to, share with you like where people live around there. I just did that video about Vistamar. There's houses and condos there, and that's on a golf course. And then, go to those areas, but go into the grocery store where you might be getting your shopping done. And be, a little extroverted and chat with some other expats. Chat with Panamanians, if you have decent Spanish or if they have some English, which some do, but it's always nice to just first ask in Spanish if they can speak or understand some English. And just chatting with people, spending time in places where you would be spending your days and your evenings. And that'll really give you a good sense of what day-to-day life would be like. Ask people about traffic. Ideally, it would be nice if you could see the area in both rainy season and dry season, because it is very different. And some people love the rainy season and some people love the dry season. And they are really very different, not just the weather, but the energy, within the country, because a lot of people come here for what is our summer, December, January, February, March, and it's crowded, so it gets a lot more crowded. It feels very lively. There's a lot going on. But then in the off season, the rainy season, things really quiet down quite a bit. So that's also something to keep in mind. And, while you're planning your trip, let me know in the comments. Have you been to Panama? Are you planning on coming to Panama? Do you think you'll plan a trip soon? Let me know. One thing to consider is that you could come to Panama for, let's say, 2 or 3 months. You could get on a house sitting site and maybe try and get a house or pet sitting job. If, it's too much to cover the mortgage where you are or the rent and pay for a seasonal 3-month stay. But there's always things that can be flexibly worked out. You might be able to sublet your house to someone if you're in an area where traveling nurses are, or if it's a desirable area for, tourism. And then that can cover your costs while you're exploring Panama for a few months. You don't have to sell your house right away. If that is an issue that brings up some fear, you can do like a test, like a trial run, and, have that time in Panama, but still have the security of your home. This is actually what I'm thinking of doing when I'm researching Ecuador. I could memorize the streets if I wanted to and look on, Google Earth and know where everything is on the map. But I'm not going to know how it feels for me until I'm there on that street, walking around, experiencing life, having a meal at a restaurant, looking at the scenery, chatting with people. That is the only way that I'm going to know if I want to pursue it further. I've decided that it could be a good idea for me to let's say that I decide that I want to pursue Ecuador, and I've made another trip to Colombia just to kind of rule that in or out. I could rent out my house for a year and I could go to Ecuador, get residency and go to Ecuador for a year. And that way I don't, have to sell the house and get rid of everything. I have the security of coming back to Panama if I want to, and I'll have the experience of being in Ecuador for a year. And then maybe I change my mind, maybe I go back to Panama and then think about another country. Because as you know, my next goal is to be somewhere that's a cooler climate, about an hour away from medical care, a little bit more of a larger city. And I know people have mentioned Boquete, but I am ready for another adventure. I've explored Panama. It's wonderful. I love Panama. I don't regret, moving here at all, but I do feel like I could be ready for another adventure in another country. If I go and then I'm miserable and decide, no, you know what? I'd rather live in the heat of Panama City and be in Panama than be in, Ecuador or Colombia, then so be it. But at least having that experience of being in that country, that will inform me. You can't make decisions from the surroundings where you are now. You have to be immersed in the environment that is new and pay attention to the internal feedback that you get. Are you comfortable? Are you relaxed? Do you feel safe? Do you like the food? What are the smells like around you? What are the people like? Do you get a good vibe? What's the music like? Do you like it, or is it grating on your nerves? That's one thing to really, really think about when you're considering another country. We're never gonna be able to research everything about a new place, because you just have to be living there to experience the things that happen. So you're gonna have frustrations along the way. You're gonna have pleasant surprises along the way, but you can't research those because you don't know what your experience is gonna be. And so that's part of why it's so important just to live somewhere and have those experiences for yourself. Now, with the research that you've done, you probably know from your research that Panama can be a little bit spotty with infrastructure. Water can go out, electricity goes out. Things aren't necessarily as reliable infrastructure-wise. Roads, the roads can get flooded. There can be burning in the dry season. There's, stray dogs that are all over the place. There's injured animals, and that can really, be heart gripping for people to see. So you've already researched that to know about that, and then you come and you experience life, and you might not be here when there's a fire or a flood or an injured animal, but you're mentally prepared to know that those things are possibilities, or at least ask questions before you're going to be investing 3 months in a place to stay. Hey, is there a water backup tank? Is there hot water in the house or apartment? So make your plan to come and visit and have the experience. Let it all unfold. And I think I've shared with you something that my coach told me years ago when she's faced with a choice decision to make. She asks herself, what is the choice that gives her the most opportunity for personal growth? And when you look at it like that, I would say generally you would say that moving abroad is going to give you the best opportunity for personal growth. It certainly has been for me. Another thing to keep in mind is that as much as we want to think that things are permanent, even me coming to the house here, I'm going to be here forever. When I'm dead and gone, just throw me into the jungle. Well, no, I've changed my mind. I need the money from the house, to actually fully retire. And I've realized that I want to be closer to good medical care as I get into, thinking about my later years, if I'm lucky to have them. And so things change. People have been here 10, 12 years and they go back because of health reasons, or they go back because they have grandchildren, or they inherited a house that, they didn't expect to get. So if you think of it like a chapter in your life and don't think of really anything that you're doing as permanent, it's very freeing. Yes, it can be scary, but you can also reframe that and think of it as excitement, because fear and excitement are basically the same feeling in the body. If you think about that, like you get that adrenaline, your heart rate increases. And so when you're starting to feel afraid about making a big move to another country, just tell yourself that you're excited about it and make it a beautiful adventure. I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to be traveling to the States. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, and I'm hoping to get some videos done while I'm there. But if I don't, you won't see me next week or maybe the week after, but you'll definitely see me again. I think I'll be able to get another video done. Thanks so much for watching.